Hey, gang, welcome back. It's Brandon Bustede, your host of Bold Leaders in Learning. And this is the second segment that I've had interviewing my colleague, Dr. Densha Francis Lawrence, who has joined us a few months ago. We talked a little bit about her background and educational background and career background initially. But this particular segment, we wanted to talk a little bit more about the topic of her dissertation. She just completed her EDD at Johns Hopkins and dove deep into the topic of coaching and advising. And of course, one of the things we talked about in the first episode was how important all of the wraparound support and services are for students, and particularly so for underserved students, right? And so advising and coaching, it's been around for a while, Densha. I feel like all of a sudden it's just become more important than ever. I mean, to the two of us, it's not an all of a sudden thing, but I feel like there's a real sense that it's core to the academic purpose of the institution, right? Whether that is thinking about a higher ed institution or in the context of learning in the workplace. So, just take us into this world a little bit. What specifically did your dissertation focus on, and maybe give us a few of the high-level insights and takeaways from it.
Sure. So I think I mentioned last time that one of my biggest learnings was that so much of how well students perform or how far they go in college is about what happens outside of the classroom. And most times, most colleges don't think that, at least in my experience, that that is part of their responsibility because it is outside of the classroom. When I started my doctorate, I was really determined to explore this question. At the time, there wasn't a lot of research when I started. Now there is actually. So what I decided to do was look at one slice of that undergraduate student going into community college, which a lot of community colleges, they support students who are underprepared for college. So I wanted to look at first generation in college. I wanted to look at students who had struggled before. I like to call that have had doors slammed in their faces, who have not always done really well academically. So I looked at that, my first question was, is there a material difference, a significant difference in persistence from your fall to your spring semester if you have a coach versus if you don't?
Yeah.
And when I did the study, what I found was that actually there is a significant difference. So having a coach can often be the difference between continuing your education or not continuing your education. I interviewed a couple of students, and I was able to interview a few coaches. And what I learned was there were so many reasons why coaches made a lot of sense. Like we think of coaching in a box, and we think, okay, that's just someone. Depending on your experience, that's someone who like tells you the nice things, who's like a mentor, who
Right.
is there for you to call when you're scared or whatever it is. But I tried to look at really tangible things that coaches were doing. And I'll give you some examples. I had a student who was a veteran. They had PTSD and they had done poorly in college before. They were going back to school. They needed to get their degree, but they were full of fear. This person who was, in the armed forces and done so much was scared to death of college. And so they were paired up with a coach. And that coach served as a friend and a peer and someone to say to them every time they were feeling like they were so overwhelmed because of everything they had going on. That
Yep.
person saying, no, this was your goal. This is your goal. You are successful. You will be successful. Let's talk about ways for you to make it through this time. I had other students who really kind of struggled to use the resources of a college campus. If you're first generation in college, actually, you often don't know what's available to you. The same is
Yeah.
true, by the way, if you're in the workforce. You sometimes don't know what the tuition benefit is or how much it covers or how to use it. How do you
Right.
really get the most out of that for any given year? So in that case, that student was really about modeling the right kinds of behaviors and the right ways to reach out to resources on campus. So what we found overall, being able to navigate a college campus, knowing what resources are available to you, really big difference for students who are coached. Knowing that someone is in your, they call it knowing that someone is in your corner. Not
Yep.
always there to tell you the nice things, but tell you the real thing and hold you accountable. That was a really big deal. One of the things that I've learned since then, and as I've sort of done more analysis, is that a lot of times students who have a deficit in that area, most of us or many of us have people in our lives who drive and serve as our network and serve as our support system. But there are many
Yeah.
students in the college system today, we know at least half of them drop out for many reasons, many students who do not have that. And if you do not have that, that can be the difference between keeping going or not going at all. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's those are some of the things that I learned along the way. But it was a really fascinating study, and I think more and more research is coming out showing the importance of coaching.
Yeah, and it's always I find it incredibly I don't know what the right word is, rewarding, I guess is what I'm looking for, where you had the experience of doing a dissertation on coaching and advising, right, and unpacking some of the insights you just shared. But of course, you learned that in the N of one in your own life, right, as a student who came to Rollins College as an international student with not much money to support one semester of college, let alone more. And there was a professor there who saw something special in you, went to bat for you, and helped you get a full ride to Rollins, right? So, it again must feel rewarding to kind of see your own personal experience, right? Which you could have just been like, hey, that was my N of one, validated in broader studies and research literature. And I think it was the same feeling I had when I was at Gallup before my time at Kaplan, leading the Gallup Purdue Index study, looking at the long-term outcomes of college graduates. And the big findings from that were graduates who during their time in college who had a mentor that encouraged their goals and dreams, or said they had professors who cared about them as a person, were twice as likely to be thriving in their well-being later in life, and twice as likely to be engaged in whatever the work was that they were doing, right? And this wasn't just a 1 year out effect. I mean, this was consistent across all ages of graduates. And so in that study, I went back too and thought about the amazing mentors and professors who were game changers in my life. And truth be told, there's a lot of the content I learned in college that I do not remember now. I cannot tell you a large percentage of this. In fact, there are studies that we forget like 90% of what we learn content wise, but those game changing relationships are truly that. And so to think about how we scale that for more students, how we build that into our model, not as something that happens accidentally for a student or by chance, but that it is part of the norm. And the unfortunate reality is that only a third of college graduates, not the dropouts, a third of college graduates say that their professors cared about them as a person, and only about 2 out of 10 had a mentor who encouraged their goals and dreams. So we've got a lot of work left to do. We know what some of the magic is, right? How do you think we get to a place of scale with this, right? Like if we know some of the meaty ingredients of it, how do we now make sure it happens for more students? Did you get to that at all in your dissertation work?
So that's one of the outstanding questions I had at the end of the study. I should mention that, I was really interested in why persistence was better, or what made the coaching relationship work, and in what cases did it not work. And I think one of the
Yeah.
things that I think is worth answering, and I think my hypothesis is this, that students, by having these coaches, actually built self-efficacy, they built self-advocacy, and they built grit skills. And that's what you're talking about. A student who builds
Yeah.
that skill, like my student, like the student with PTSD, when they started, they thought, there's no way I can do this. And there was a lot of fear. Now
Right.
they're closer to graduation. And this student is telling me, I feel I can do anything. I can do this. I know I can do it. If I get a bad grade, I know I can overcome that. And to me, that showing that building of your self-efficacy, it's building out your grit. And actually that is the difference between failing and staying in that situation, or continuing to persist and succeed. So that's a skill set that you use in your academic career. But to your point, when you graduate, when you move on, when you start working, yes, you use those skills there as well. So that coaching, that help, that support you're getting is giving you skills for life. And I think there are students who do not have that coming into college, right? We assume they don't have it in high
Yeah.
school, and actually there are supports in K for 12 for that.
Right.
We assume that coming out of high school, everyone has that, but we are acknowledging that that's not the case. I think in terms of scaling, I think we need to put some serious thoughts to ways we can do this. We can
Right.
codify all the things that really make for great coaches, right? I think what Kaplan does is very, very interesting and is very, it could be really a game changer for a lot of schools, especially as far as retention is concerned. It also could be a real game changer in the corporate environment where you have folks trying to get either their first degree or even in some cases their second degree, and they need the help and support to do that. So you really have to make sure that you build those higher the you hire and train and develop coaches who can actually go in and solve for that, because you don't want a situation where you hire a bunch of folks and they actually don't know what they're doing, because it takes, if that relationship isn't working, it can be destructive as well. So the beauty of what Kaplan does is you're creating these best practices, these skills, this way and this environment where you're creating coaches that you can go out and you can scale that even to a global setting, which one individual organization could not be able to do potentially. So I think that's the beauty of the way that Kaplan is working through that. But as it is a question we need to ask: how do we make sure every school has something like that? If you're really interested in equity, if you're really really serious about
Right.
DEI, if you're really interested in moving the needle, you have to bridge that coaching support that student potentially is not getting anywhere else but in that college environment.
Yeah, and look, we in the education field, and particularly at an organization like Kaplan, we talk about education access. We talk about equity a lot. These are things that are deeply held values among the people who work in this organization, the various institutions we work with, from high schools to colleges, universities, and the employers we're part of. But I'll make a simple point. I don't know that we'll come close to achieving access and equity without intensive and scaled advising and coaching. I don't see how we do it absent that. And yes, some of that can be AI enhanced or powered, right? But I also don't believe it's an inhuman type of coaching and advising, right? I think there is still a deeply human element to it. That doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be in the box of in-person, face-to-face coaching and advising. And in fact, going back to some of the Gallup studies that I was involved in, some of the universities that were doing the best in terms of alumni saying they had mentors who encouraged their goals and dreams, the one that was at the top of the chart was an online university that had made advising the centerpiece of what it did. And if you just judge that book by its cover, online degree, you would have missed the key insight of the deeply human support they were providing. But that was being done however that advisor and student wanted to connect. FaceTime, Google Hangout, chat, kind of didn't matter, right? It was the regularity of it and the consistency of being matched with the same person from the time you matriculate to the time you graduate. Now, I go back to my own advising as an undergraduate at a very highly ranked institution. The advising there was horrible. And when I say advising, the formal advising was horrible because it was like a handoff. Like, I met once with a pre-major advisor, then I met with a major advisor who was somebody that had no interest in being an advisor. Like, he just wanted to write papers and which but like, don't ask them to be an advisor if that's something they don't want to do. So I think about the irony of the elite college universities that may actually be furthest from this kind of formal coaching advising process, and then looking to models where it has scaled, where it has served the traditionally underserved student really well. So I'm encouraged, right? This is a glass half full perspective, but I don't know. Am I being too bold and provocative in saying that we don't ever accomplish access and equity without advising and coaching?
I think you have a fair point to make. I don't make it my business to predict the future, but I can say quite a few schools over the last few years have instituted coaching or some version of coaching. The CUNY
Right.
program found that just giving students tokens increased retention rates. Having someone who knew that they needed that help increased graduation rates. So I
Yeah.
think it's fair to say that we have to find ways to bridge gaps that exist. Is it okay that they exist when that happens when a student comes to college? No, that's not okay. But we live in a world where that is the case. And these students need the help, but it's not just at college, actually. A lot of folks who are working right now, who actually, if you are from a low socioeconomic background, you're probably working your way through college and you're trying to figure out what's the right major. When's the right time to switch a major? What majors are out there? What is a good school? What all of those questions they don't really know the answers to. So I think, if we want to begin to solve that, we really have to be serious about those kinds of support. Maybe there is a world in the future where we don't need so many coaches, but I think right now it's fair to say that we do. And I think we need to take it seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of lately the conversations I've been in, I feel like we have so much content, right? We have courses and
Yes.
content galore. I mean, both embedded in degree programs and on, huge platforms like the massive open online course platforms, right? Like we're you just content spilling out everywhere. It's the coaching that supports people through that content that's the more rare and, still, least understood thing. But so we've been talking about this in the context of college students and we mentioned briefly kind of workplace. So I want to ask you about the big trend of companies building out robust education benefits programs, primarily for frontline workers, right, where they're trying to help workers who haven't yet gotten a college degree to get one, either an associate's degree or bachelor's degree. But as you know, in some of these programs, there is a whole host of educational opportunities they can take advantage of. So there's plenty of choice. Choice then becomes a challenge, right? Like, well, how do I know what's the right path to go down, right? I mean, we want to use coaches to help stay on that path once you've determined a path. But there's also the like, I'm overwhelmed with all the different choices. Will this one lead to a better job or not? How do I know that? So just tell me what you think the hope and opportunity is for coaching and advising within in the education benefits world at the employer level.
Yeah. So again, that's something I have a little bit of experience with because when I went to get my doctorate, I actually had to use the benefits of my of the company I was working for at that time. I will tell you that as an adult learner, you have responsibilities, whether it's kids, whether it's your
Yeah.
full-time job that most likely you're not working 40 hours a week, probably it's more. But just a lot more complexity when you're working and trying to go back to school. And I think to your point, choice becomes a really big issue because the time and effort and energy and supports you had like in high school, like your guidance counselor, you don't really have that support as you're trying to navigate this new world. And so one of the things I think we miss out on is the fact that the student who is working, who is an adult at that point, actually needs that concierge level service. They actually need help navigating to the right path that they will be successful on. Because if you only have to like get online and try to research and find out for yourself to get overwhelmed, I challenge anyone today to try to figure out that out just by Googling it, not from your knowledge, but just by searching it up, which is how people do things.
Yeah.
And you'll end more confused than you were to begin with. But these are people who are all in all walks of life, everything from the military to working in, entry level position in retail, wherever you are. And so it becomes supremely hard to do that. So I think we're missing that opportunity to help them navigate to the right choice because the right choice is the first step to graduating, picking the
Yeah.
right path. And then
Yeah.
if they run into a situation where it's not the right path, having someone redirect and help them make a better choice. So I hope that, a lot of companies start to see that because it's a great benefit to have to be able to have your tuition paid for. But, I think I saw something that said very few people, at the end of the day, the utilization rate is very low. And I think we'd see much higher uptake for adult learners, especially if they had a clearer path to mapping their way through all these
Yeah.
choices.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, we know we have data from college graduates that about half of all graduates regret what they majored in. If they went back and did it again, so getting on the right path is key, right? And then when you need to make some adjustments along that path, that's key as well. And so again, a nod towards the power of advising and coaching. And I know, that's part of why, the two of us love our jobs and our roles because Kaplan is involved in all kinds of fascinating angles of this coaching and advising conversation. I mean, hundreds of some of the most professional coaches and advisors in the world work at Kaplan, supporting students of all ages from all different parts of the globe in the employer context and in the university context, and that work is some of the fastest growing work that we're doing in support of partners. So there's no doubt we're going to continue to unpack the why, the how, the scale questions in the middle of all this. But in the the irony of the fast evolving technology revolution that we're in the middle of, good old fashioned human relationships are still powering a big part of this education world. So, Densha, thanks for joining us today. I'm delighted to officially welcome you on board as the co-host of Bold Leaders in Learning going forward. So this is just the beginning of what will be a lot of fun. So thanks so much for joining me today.
Looking forward to it, Brendan. Thank you.